Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Friends of Mortgage Heroes. I'm Andy, and today is back with me my friend Jeffrey Czajka. That's right. It's called Czajka. It's pronounced Czajka, everybody, with Advisor Growth Solutions. Sorry, I almost said it wrong right away. This is the memory guy. I'm supposed to remember this. So Jeffrey had been with us a few episodes ago. You might remember we talked about memory and how to strengthen the mind and the brain and how you can retain things and all the different industries and classifications of business that he helps people win and succeed by using more of your brain power. So I invited Jeffrey back because I wanted to continue our conversation. And there's just some more things I wanted to go and kind of deep dive and give a little more detail about. After I watched the replay, I'm like, oh, we got to get you back sooner rather than later. So Jeffrey, thanks for coming back in.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me back. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and I hope you remember everything we talked about the first time.
Every single detail.
Yeah, we'll get all the memory jokes out of the way early. But thanks for coming back, man. How you been?
Been good. So a lot of busyness in life.
Yeah,
things happening.
I know that you've not only been doing a lot of trainings, of course, like you normally do, but I know that you just got a new designation. You said
that's correct. The CEPA designation, Certified Exit Planning Advisor designation.
First of all, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that was like a certified exit planning thing. Yes. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we were looking for a way to really kind of formalize the consulting work that we do with business owners, right? I mean, we talk a lot about how to help kind of grow things. Strategy plus skill equals accelerated growth. And we were getting into the space where we're working with business owners and trying to help them kind of evolve, grow, and also exit their business. And so the CEPA designation looks at how do you understand the value of the business and what value gaps do you have. And then we work with owners to help kind of build the value of their business so they can have a maximum exit when it comes time to transition.
When did you get it? I mean, when did this become part of what you're doing as far as, your career?
Yeah, so about 5 years ago, I started working with a client who is in financial services, and his goal is to buy practices from retiring financial advisors and then roll them under one umbrella. So over that time period, I've helped him evaluate, I don't know how many deals, but we ended up closing on about a dozen to 15 practices across the country. And I started working with them when they were managing about 30 million under management. Now they're about 1.5 billion under management. So
wait, that's a huge jump. Wow,
So
that's crazy.
Been, for probably half a decade in that sense. Some of the work I'd done previously dabbled in some of those areas, touched some of those areas, worked with family transitioning of taking dad or mom and selling the practice to their son or daughter, and some of the early part work in that. It wasn't the full kind of acquisition or transition work there, but it all laid that groundwork so that it became a very interesting and exciting aspect of what I did. I just wanted to really formalize it and kind of move further into that.
Well, and I can see how like that might be. It's almost like a nice sequel to where you find yourselves being introduced into a company and a business where you're helping them maybe increase sales or scale by using the techniques you taught with memory, and not only that, but then the application of that inside the process of running the operations of the company too. And then you have this sequel part like, hey, by the way, now we've got to this place where I can actually help you get out of this whole thing too.
Exactly, and it's one of those things where I almost started in the middle of that sandwich, right? I always was brought in to help grow sales. Often what I've always found, though, is it's disconnected to the overall strategy, right? A lot of times business owners, managers are like, we just want sales now. But sometimes they drive sales at the kind of lack of building value. And so they don't look at it from a big picture, long-term perspective. They just look at it from an immediate perspective. And so with the CEPA designation, we really start at kind of taking a step backwards and just saying, hey, what value gaps do we have? What do we need to fix? What's the true purpose of doing all this work? And then being able to prioritize the work.
This may be a crude way to ask this question because I'm thinking of it on the fly. There might be a crude way to ask this. I'll just ask this way for clarity's sake. Do you think that gives like your initial sales proposition of training and memory, and do you think it gives that more teeth? Saying like being able to like converge the two and go, hey, by the way, by doing this, which allows this over here, I'm going to be able to actually bring them together. Sorry, what's a non-crude way of saying that?
It's on the spot. I don't know either. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I always hesitated and didn't like saying, hey, I'm a sales trainer, right? Like, I'm going to help you grow your sales. I mean, it's just, it kind of seems like 1970s, like boiler room, like first place you get a Cadillac, and second place you got some steak knives sitting around, right? I mean, like, it just doesn't really sit well in today's world anymore. And being that I gravitate towards the strategy work and I really like the consulting work I was doing with clients, I was looking for a way, how do you kind of position this as an overall strategy that helps clients like beginning to end, if you will? Given the demographics in our day and age, we have a lot of baby boomers who own businesses that are, either looking at or wondering, how am I going to get out of this thing, right? They've built their net worth, they built their business, they built their livelihood, their ego, their identity around this business. And now they got to figure out, how do I take all this intangible equity that I've built and make it a tangible thing in their bank account?
Are these legacy plans, is there like a next in line typically at the companies you're talking to, where there's someone already inside that is maybe a little primed to just take over that position, or is
either way, right? I mean, with a lot of the financial advisors that I had worked with over the years, it ended up being that way just because of where I met them. Right. So they were they already had self-identified, I want my son or daughter to take over my practice and kind of be that legacy piece. I just don't know how to train them. And so that's where the sales training programs that I've built were being of use to them, because they're like, hey, I can do the work. I just don't know how to train my son or daughter to do the work. And so that's where I met them. But when we meet business owners at the beginning of the process, they may or may not have a family member that they want to transition the business to. It might be more of a management team and do an employee stock purchase plan where we have the runway where the employees really can kind of buy the practice. Sometimes it's private equity. Sometimes it's selling to a strategic acquisition, if you will. So it varies, right? And that's part of the beginning work of the analysis, and why I like the process so much better than just saying, hey, let me help you build sales.
Yeah.
Because you can really, depending on how you want to exit or what pieces you already have in place, some avenues may be more advantageous than others.
Yeah.
And we can build all the pieces to work towards making that most appealing, right?
Yeah.
Because
I can see where there's some variance in that too. I mean, I understand. I mean, I asked the question and I'm realizing, oh wait, that's going to vary based on a lot of different factors. And the reason is, one of the things I know, even among my friends who are in the trades industries, there's not a lot of like succession planning, because the next in line doesn't want to do it. I don't want dad's electrician, business or fencing company or whatever. And so sometimes, and even I was talking to someone who has a pest control. It's like their son doesn't want to do it. Okay, well then what do? You got to sell your book to somebody else, or someone else who's on your team is going to have to like rise up and do it, or the team is going to have to then just jointly become the ownership crew or whatever. Yeah. And maybe I'm leaning too hard into it being just trade specific in this part of the conversation, but I see that a lot right now.
You see that in every business, right? So it's in today's world, it's so different than when mom and dad started the business, right? I mean, 30 years ago, just think how difficult it was to travel across the world. Now it's super easy. Just get on your smartphone, buy a ticket. You're in Italy in 12 hours and you're nowhere close to mom and dad's business. I mean, maybe that's more of a vacation example, but like people do that and actually end up living in Italy for a while. They're not going to come back and manage mom and dad's business. They want to live in, the DC area as opposed to Southern California or whatever the case might be. And that takes away some of those opportunities that the original business owner may have had. Maybe they never thought about it. They just put their head down. They really enjoyed the work, and they don't have that familiar person where they can sell the business to.
Yeah.
And so they got to look at other options.
So what is the thing that you're most excited about, kind of now adding this to your repertoire, if you will? What's the thing you're most excited about with the CEPA designation and being able to, help people with their exiting?
Yeah, I think it's just having the longer term relationship with the clients, right? I mean, memory training is one of those simple, we experience it for half a day and then I don't hear from you anymore. I mean, we've had the pleasure of being able to do this podcast together, but for everyone else in the class, they don't have a podcast. I don't get to see them after the class. Like you lose that relationship, right? I mean, when you spend 4 hours and you help someone grow and you see the growth in the class, you build this little bond in this relationship, and it's nice to kind of continue it. But the memory class can't go on for weeks and months at a time, right? Yeah. Whereas the CEPA designation allows me to really kind of formalize relationships in a value add kind of way that extends over a period of time and taking that journey with people.
So that's a good segue to what I wanted to talk about next, because you mentioned the memory class where I had come to, and I'm so grateful. Thanks again for an awesome class that day. A couple of people in the class recognized me because they were from the local bank down here, and they're like, "Oh, hey, we know you." I'm like, "Oh, shoot, yeah, you do." And so you had several different branches. I won't name the bank, but you had several different branches of a household name bank, a national bank, and their management team there. What are some of the industries that you find yourself most commonly training, and why is that?
Yeah, great question. So there's always a handful that really, if you break it down in that way, kind of rise to the top. One is kind of your industry, right? We can call it kind of real estate general, like mortgage professionals and real estate professionals. And I think in that industry, a lot of times they're focused on meeting people, right? Buyers and sellers. You got to meet a lot of people to find someone who wants to buy a house or list a house. And it might not be immediate. So you got to remember them over a period of time, right? So from a names perspective, from a listing presentation perspective, or kind of a sales presentation perspective, those are all big reasons why that profession, that industry kind of gravitates towards memory training. Financial services is another big one. A lot of times for the same reason, right? You think of the branch managers, they got to remember everybody that walks into the bank. Financial advisors, they have clients they got to remember, so on and so forth in that regard. Now, an interesting take in financial services, I've actually had wholesalers, so kind of the product providers, right? Think of like, I won't name any names, but I've had a number of financial services firms who actually manufacture the product for the advisors to sell, have hired me to be the guest speaker at their lunch and learns. They're always trying to find new ways to add value to their clients, who are the financial advisors, and taking them to Ruth Chris for another, lunch and talking about products just gets old after a while, right? And so a lunch meeting on improving memory has been a very good way for them to increase the attendance, reach new advisors, and kind of add new value to those relationships. So that's been an interesting take. One that people don't think of often is management teams and manufacturing. So I had the pleasure and benefit of working with Kraft Foods when I lived in Western New York for a while. And I spoke to the plant that made the Lunchables. At that time, I don't know how it is now, but back then they were the only plant that made Lunchables. Every Lunchable in the country that you saw on the grocery store shop was made in that plant.
Did they pay you in Lunchables too? They're like,
no, they didn't pay me in Lunchables. I would have.
We can't pay you, but here's a bunch of meat and cheese.
Yeah, right. My boys still love Lunchables to this day, right? But back then, they were just they're a great group of people and leaders, and they saw the value of being able to walk the plant floor, remember their people's names, but processes, product details, kind of inventories, those kinds of things were important to them. Their counterparts at the string cheese plant had me speak at their office.
This is amazing.
And when we came to the workshop, the team from the string cheese plant actually brought a box of string cheese from the plant that day for snack at the workshop.
That's amazing.
Which is awesome.
They're like, I wonder what we're going to have today. Yeah, no, right? No, you don't. You don't wonder.
Totally out of the blue, unexpected. They didn't ask. There's like, hey, we thought we'd bring some string cheese for everybody. It was awesome.
There's 400 string cheeses for everybody.
It almost was.
Oh my gosh, that's
huge.
hilarious.
Huge box.
So when you're doing that, okay, so I guess I did not know or didn't equate. Okay, we're doing memory. It makes sense. Financial planning, banking, mortgage, real estate, financial services, that kind of thing. I get all that because there's lots of details. It's important you know people. They're making really big choices. Yeah. Typically your home purchase is your largest purchase. It's your largest monthly payment, your biggest tax break, that kind of stuff. And your financial planning, it's like your future. So like it would make sense that all these people, makes sense. Perfect lineup that you'd be helping them. How'd the whole like ops floor thing happen? Is it beyond like you're mentioning, remembering people's names? Like, okay, but I know on factories, like you got a name tag, you have a uniform, all the instructions are written because it's a production line. They don't go like, oh, well, let's just see how it works today. No, there's a formula for all that. So how'd that even converge?
Yeah. So, I mean, think about it also from this perspective. All of those procedures are written down in a book somewhere. The line people have to know their process. But there's a lot of processes happening simultaneously. And so the management team, I mean, they obviously have their area of specialty, but they're managers because they know how things interact with each other. They don't just specialize in one process or flow. They understand how it all integrates together, right? And so they have to remember more than just one process. They also, as they walk around the plant, they may talk to various employees, and it might be, the name tag may be covered up or not covered up, depending on the situation. But it also is not just them, but their family members, right? I mean, you think about building long-term employment and having employees who value the work that they do and going to work every day. It comes down to, hey, my boss knows my wife's name. My boss knows my kid's name. They ask about them. They remember important events that come up. Like those are the relational pieces that can be more important to them.
I get that. I guess I asked a shallow question, didn't I?
No, that's okay. And it's and also
your explanation makes a lot of sense. Like that actually meets me in a place where I'm like, you know what, that is important. And I guess I wasn't thinking at that next level where, yeah, I mean, I know that for me it's important for the friends I have in business that if they've shared with me their spouse's name or their kid's name or something unique about what they do or how they spend their time or what they're interested in, I do try to remember those things. So it would make perfect sense in a large operation that, for just team morale and overall like being seen and known, that can be really important.
Definitely. And it's also like not just for them, but for other people too. As you walk around, for them, the plant floor, for us, the office, people will say things to you, give you feedback or an idea or add something to your to-do list. And you're not going to whip out the notepad right in front of them and write it down. You got to remember it until you get back to your office to write it down, right? So that that's another kind of simple thing, but as you go through life, if you have those experiences where like employees tell you something and then you forget to do it for them, it can hit you in a couple times. And then you start to figure out like, am I hiding from my employees so it never happens again? Or am I going to solve that problem so it doesn't happen again? Right. And we've had people in some cases, banks, or one client I can think of specifically that have brought us in just for that kind of morale perspective, right? I mean, obviously there's benefit to memory training, but it's a great interactive learning experience where everyone can really share in it at every single level of the enterprise. And they do it just for a culture building perspective. It's business relevant, but it also builds the culture and the experience.
So interpersonally, I can see 100% how that's just so vital and critical, especially for overall morale, like 100%. Like, how concerned are you, as someone who's done this for 25 years now, right? 25 years now. Like, I know I had brought up AI when we first talked in our first conversation, but like at the rate and the speed that it's going, do you have like concern that we're just going to become these automatons and turn our minds off and stop using critical parts of our brain function because we have these tools that we can rely on to even do things on our behalf, do our thinking on our behalf?
It is concerning. Because it's part of it is so easy and to do, right? So it's easy to hit the button, open AI, and just throw something in there and get something back. And it's so good that we just say, hey, let's run with this, right? I mean, recently I've been asked to write some articles for a few different publications. And I've, in past, going back a few years when we didn't have AI, I had a lot of people say, hey, you do really good writing. But I haven't done it as much, so I wasn't as, I was a little rusty because I hadn't done it for a while, and I got asked to write these articles, so I started writing them. And I'm like, man, this is hard to sit down and like write a good article now, just because I'm a little rusty. But then just for an experience to see what it would do, I took one of the articles I wrote and threw it in an AI, and I'm like, man, that's good. And it makes you think, like, should I run with the AI one? Or should I actually go out with what I wrote. Like the machine article might sound a little bit better than the human article. And my fear would be is too often people take the easy road in life and they just start doing that. You have that experience once and you just start throwing in the prompts into AI. Now you have your article and you just put it out there. And we're seeing that in the media, like, you know, the news organizations that have to pump out article after article after article. I mean, you see AI making a few mistakes in those articles. You're like, oh, yeah, it's not a human.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I just had an article drop yesterday that I wrote 100%. I never even touched AI with it. And it's just great to see just the positive feedback of like, wow, like you hit the nail on the head or just makes sense. Like, awesome to see. So it's a
and I guess I am asking the question from, I mean, I know I am asking it from a biased position, and the bias is I think people are going to take the easy road, and I think they're going to be lazy about it and either suspend their own ability to do effort and then just substitute that for taking something that doesn't require as much effort. But then, okay, well, what do we do with the energy we have? What do we do with the focus we have? What do we do with the brain capacity we have left? Nothing. So it's like, I know that there's purpose in us being able to remember things, memorize things, have recall, have creative thought, have structured thought, be focused, do good things. But if AI does 80% of what I just mentioned, then that means we should have a lot of time left to do something extra creative or whatever, and I'm just not really seeing it yet.
I mean, on paper, in theory, it would say that, but I think all of that is just like a muscle and atrophies over time, right? If we don't use it, it just starts to atrophy. It's still kind of there, but we have to kind of go through rehab to rebuild the muscle, the power, the energy. And that takes even more effort than doing the work originally, right? So you can kind of get in this negative loop of, oh, I took the easy route once or twice. I started losing the momentum, the energy, and everything else, and the creativity. And that just starts a downward spiral. Now, if you want to revert and kind of go back on an upward spiral, it takes even more effort and energy.
So what do you recommend for people to do that, I don't want to just jump to the conclusion that, okay, well, then there's some daily or weekly exercises you should do, but maybe there are. Are there some things that you would recommend people do in order to make sure that atrophy doesn't just set in?
Yeah, and that's where, to kind of put it bluntly, you just kind of got to do the work, right? I mean, there's no shortcut on this. I think the different perspective is you got to find a way to do it that has meaning and purpose. Right? So don't just write stuff to write stuff, right? I mean, find something that you find value in, that you enjoy, and write either for pleasure on that, or find a way to tie it into your career to get some value out of it from a career perspective. One of the things I ended up doing is I have a little journal that I write back and forth with one of my daughters. I don't even remember why we started it, but like, some reason I decided one day to pick up a journal and write her a note and just left it on her bed. And then she wrote me a note. And then I'd write in response to her note. Now, sometimes we go like a month between writing or 2 months. I mean, sometimes the break is too long, but we could be more disciplined. And that would be a way that people could kind of do the work and have it have meaning without necessarily, a work deadline attached to it per se, or just feeling like you're doing work to do work kind of thing.
And since I talked to you last, I've been thinking a lot about the difference between all the things I write down versus things I work and practice and rehearse remembering, beyond like stats and facts. And there's a lot of short-term stuff because we talk about economics here and things change week by week on what we report on and what we talk about. And so sometimes it's only relevant for a very small period of time. But then there's things that I really know I need to remember, and I'll either write it down or I know I'm going to have a recurring conversation with people every quarter, every year, every half year, whatever. And so I want to make sure next time I talk to them, I can recite my notes and go back to those. And I've just been wondering a lot about how much of that is worth me remembering as a practice of keeping that muscle strong versus, practicing and also having it written down so that if I fail to recall, it's still there and I can go back to it and I can remember the details on the day that I wrote them. I'm not sure if that's like a best practice or if there's something maybe I could do better to enhance that so I'm a better, let's say, performer on when it's time to remember all those things or not. What would you say about that?
My take on that would be I come back to purpose a lot. And, what's the purpose of what you're doing? And especially in the professional sphere of life, that one's very easy to understand, right? I mean, professionally, our purpose is to drive revenue oftentimes, right? Especially as sales professionals, business owners, we're there so we can drive revenue. And as we do that, we usually make more money as professionals, which is one of the things we all love to do so we can go do the fun things we want to do in life. So when it comes to memory and how you apply it, it's really what's going to help you achieve the end purpose of driving more revenue. So for me, hearing you say, hey, the economic stats change every week, and you hear that a lot, no matter what industry we're in, because it's a changing thing for everybody. It's not so much the exact fact per se, because when you think about it from a sales perspective, sales to me is a process. It's not an event, right? So I heard it once said that people hate to be sold, but they love to buy. And so how do you make it a buying experience? You make it a process. And definitely we've gone through fads in the business world of consultative selling or this, that, and the next thing. And it all comes down to how do you take a stranger and move them through a process, whether that's 1 meeting, 3 meetings, 6 meetings, whatever that is for you in your industry, and help them make a buying decision as opposed to selling them something. So where memory comes into me is opening the conversation and getting them engaged in it, where then you can pull out the references and the notes that you need. It's not necessarily remembering every note on the page for that step of the sales process, but if you remember the 2 or 3 key questions to ask or statements to make that get someone intrigued, kind of off the back of their chair like this during the conversation and sitting more like this, then you can use any tool at your disposal to further that conversation. But if you can't remember those first 3 or 2 questions or statements, good luck, right? So that's where I would apply it.
I want to take a moment today too to also talk about or talk to the parents of kids who are young and also are using devices. Now, I know in our education system, they're on a computer or they're on a tablet or whatever, and that's part of the curriculum now is this exchange of learning online and digitally. And are you? I guess it's a multifaceted question, so we'll dance around this a little bit. Is number one, are you concerned that kids aren't being invited to stretch and flex their memory muscle enough? Number one. Number two, what do you think people can do as parents of elementary school kids or even junior high and high school kids to kind of encourage and promote them to flex that muscle of their memory? And I guess and third, like, where do you think we're going to end up 10, 15, 20 years from now? So let's start with the first thing.
First question was yes, I'm worried about it.
Yeah, okay.
2, what can you do about it? Golly, man, if parents could just throw away screens, that'd be awesome, right? Get rid of those gaming systems, get rid of the screens. That would be phenomenal.
Do you think it's an on-off situation where it's like I have screens versus no screens, or is it duration? Like, is 30 minutes less harmful than 5 hours?
Yeah, well, I mean,
I know the answer is yes, but
there's you asked the obvious question, right? There's a obvious yes. 5 minutes is better than 5 hours, but I wish I wish I have received the article and read it by now, but one of our son's really good friends from school just had his parents ex-nay Roblox. Like, cold turkey, cutting you off, kid, you're not playing it ever again.
Really?
Because she read a research paper on how detrimental that particular game was to the childhood brain.
Really?
And so she shared it with my wife. I haven't gotten it yet and read it, but it what I gather is part of it revolves around the fact of, like, when you and I played video games as kids, like, Mario either won or lost, and it was a finite thing.
Right.
Right. You got 3 lives, and if you didn't,
game over, like, start from the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah. Roblox doesn't do that. It's a continuous death trap of like sucking you into not ever having a final ending space. So there, based on what was shared with me, I get a sense that it's kind of going that direction with the research of like how detrimental that aspect is.
How about this? Post show, if you have that article accessible, send it to me and we'll put it in the description.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I want to read it too. And also, since we're mentioning it, I want to share it with the audience too, especially those who have kids who are on Roblox. And again, this isn't like an anti-Roblox rant. It's just that this is the example that was cited in a research study.
What is pertinent to our lives, right? And
this is one of the things I think that, my kids are older. My youngest is already a sophomore in high school, and they did not grow up with a phone in their hand. That was our rule. They didn't get their phone until they had to. They were in an age where they'd be away from us and with other people that we need to reach them or they need to reach us, and that wasn't until late middle school, because everyone they were going with was either family, close friends, or classmates that we knew. So for us, we delayed screens for our daughters for a long time. A lot of people, I walk around and there's the kid in the shopping cart who can't talk yet, but can hold the phone and push buttons.
That's so sad.
And I'm like, I understand why they're doing it. I 100% disagree why they're doing it, because I can't help but think that this is detrimental versus helpful.
Totally. I agree with you. And our kids, is we share, like, we started as you ended, right? So we have a little bit of overlap there on your low end and my high end. Yeah. Our oldest didn't get a phone until 8th grade, like spring semester of 8th grade, right? And that's all because she was going on the East Coast trip, and like that was the only way she was, like, whatever story to that. But like we held on as long as possible for that. In her younger sister by 2 years got a phone same time because she has ballet in Balboa Park and yada, yada, yada. Yeah. But like beyond that, we're like, no. But this whole thing of like, how do I put it nicely? I mean,
you don't have to put it nicely. You can just say it the way you want to say it.
It's just one of those, the decision that people, I would disagree with the decision as well. I feel there's plenty of other ways to address your children in shopping carts or restaurants or wherever, and they don't need a screen in their hand to do it, right? I mean, like, there's, my favorite ages are right around that age, right? That like 18 months, like nearly 9 months to like 30 months is like an awesome age to interact with. And I can't tell you how many kids I see kind of in that zone that have a screen in their hand already. Yeah. And it's like kids are so fun at that age. Yeah. It can be so challenging too. So I get it. But as it relates to as kids grow, as we look at kids in middle school today, I mean, like, all kids talk about are these video games that never end. They want to talk about the video game, and they're not being creative, right? Yeah. I mean, before we got to that phase with our son, he's in 4th grade now. 3 years ago, he's, doing art, and he loved art and all that kinds of stuff. But now all he wants to do is play video games because that's all anybody's talking about in school. And you see, I think last time we spoke, there was a professor that I heard an interview with who, told all the students they had to put away their screens. They learned more. He got better reviews as a professor, and you saw the value of that, of not even taking notes on the screen. You had a paper and a pen. And that was med school, right? So those are medical students. And it saddens me because our schools continue to put more and more emphasis on screens when they should be taking the screens out of the classroom. Yeah. And, doing more creative, stimulating work, if you will. So I don't know the right answer except a revolt of all parents.
Well, and I'm not assuming that there's a right answer. I wanted your opinion because, you've been in this field of memory for 25 years. And it's like, I know that there has to be some sort of impact, and it has not been for the better. And then I'm curious about what do you look at down the line? Like, when you look at the horizon, 10, 15, 20 years, do you think it's perpetually just going to continue that direction? Or do you think there's going to be a stopping point where either policy or preference or parenting finally comes back around and goes, hey, hold on, we're stopping here. We're not going to go further.
I tend to lean on human nature repeats itself. And as you look at humanity over time, you see these cyclical things, right? You always see one generation kind of evolve away from what their parents did, and then the next generation a little bit further, and then the next generation is like, oh, I kind of like what grandma and grandpa used to do, and they start bringing some of that back, right? So I think and hope and have faith that human nature will start to cycle back to a different day, but it's a hope and a prayer at this point.
I'm going to meet you in that exact moment. Our middle daughter the other day, literally at dinner, says, when I'm older and I have my own place, I want my house to have a conversation pit. You remember those? Like from like the houses in the 70s,
Yep.
where it had like a couple stairs down. It was like couches, either a circle or a square or a rectangle, some shape. And there was just couches with pillows, and people, there was intentionally to sit around and have conversation.
Yeah, that's what
and, she's 18 years old. And I was like, oh, okay. So
imagine that.
Yeah.
We don't need a screen in every room.
Now, to paint the picture for you, at our house, in the room we're sitting at, we have our dining room table and our kitchen. It's one big, great room. But then our seating area is in a U shape, and it's couches and chairs, and there's a screen that if there's something on, that's the only thing that's on, and we're all watching it. Like there's a screen behind you. That's the only thing in this room. It's the only thing in that room. But our chairs are in, and our seating arrangement is intentionally so everyone's facing each other, and they're not all facing the screen.
Yep.
It's all facing the center of the conversation and the coffee table versus everyone's attention going this way.
Yeah.
So it's part of me is saying all this, elaborating, is that I'm kind of not surprised she said that, but I was relieved. I was really relieved that she's like, you know what? I want to have a conversation pit in my house.
I think that's awesome.
I was like,
I think that's awesome.
heck yeah. I want to be old and come and sit in your conversation pit.
Yeah, right? give me a coffee or beer. And
But that's also the thing I enjoy about this whole program, like being able to do our Mortgage Heroes podcast, our friends of Mortgage Heroes, interview and invite our friends who are in and around real estate and business and talk about these things face to face is why this is so important to me. And doing this is it's also very gratifying.
It is. And there's a lot of power to connecting with people in person, right? And I remember growing up, we always watched TV over dinner. And, it was, 5:30 ABC World News Report with Peter Jennings, back in the day.
Wow. Peter Jennings reference. Woo, I think you're the first,
then,
I think you're the first person ever to say Peter Jennings in our studio.
Well, you got to be a first and got to age myself somewhere. Right. And then it was like Wheel of Fortune. And like, it was just,
that's right.
You had
It's
that,
Jeopardy.
You had that prime lineup on TV while we were eating dinner. And that's how we did it.
Wow.
But like in my household, the dining room's right next to the living room. There's no wall. The TV's over there, but it's never on while we eat. If it's on, it's like family movie night or something like that, right? And so we have focused and tried to put effort into really just driving, family meal together time, if you will. The conversations always don't go the way we want them to, but it's always a curveball somewhere.
Oh, that's good.
There's that. And then, part of what I love is, I'm a member of the University Club downtown here in San Diego, and talk about a comfortable place to meet people, right? I remember when I lived in other places, you had to go to, various different places to kind of, if you want to have coffee and meet and chat with people. And it was just an awkward environment to sit down and really have a good connecting relationship. And for me, I think part of it is, where do you find the comfortable place to have that conversation, right? Like your daughter wants that conversation pit in her house. It's going to be her comfort zone to do that, and specifically designed in her house, in that place. But then when you go out of your house, where's your conversation pit, right? And so for me, that has been just a very comfortable place that I can have my conversation pit, if you will. And so I think as people look at implementing that, find your own conversation pit, if you will, wherever that is, whether it's on the beach or
I like that.
You
don't physically have one, make one.
Yeah, exactly.
I
right?
like that.
Or find it around your geographic area.
Yeah.
Right? If there's, if you like to walk, go around Lake Murray here in San Diego and have a walk and talk with someone. If you like the beach, pick a specific beach and go there and have your conversation pit there.
We did a walk and talk up Cowles Mountain the other day.
Nice.
Yeah, it was
nice.
Labored breathing through the talking, but it was walk and talk up Cowles and back. So that was cool.
My favorite. I don't live too far from Cowles Mountain. My favorite hike many years ago, we went up. It was a sunrise hike we did, and we went up on a foggy morning. So we got about a mile up, and it was just fog. So when we got that last third, all you saw was the clouds.
Oh, that's super neat.
And then when the sun rose, it burned off all the clouds, and we were able to literally see the clouds just kind of like fade away into the
like reveals the whole scene.
Wow, that's so cool.
Neat.
It was so cool.
That's really cool.
So,
but before we end today, I want to go back to you mentioning the University Club, because you've been doing some work with Olive Crest, and I wanted to come back to that a little bit more today. So let's talk about what's going on with Olive Crest, and you mentioned there's some stuff happening around there. So let's give that some time.
Yeah. So as an organization, just as a person, I love to give back, right? I love to have purpose, give meaning. And one of the things we found out with the University Club, they did a big remodel, and they wanted to tie kind of the grand reopening to kind of giving back to the community as well. And they picked Olive Crest as the local charity, helps children and families who are in need and at risk of kind of going into the welfare system, and giving parents an opportunity to have someone kind of take care of their kids over, a period of time to kind of get their lives back in order, so they can get the kids back and kind of be a family and continue on as a family. If there's children experiencing homelessness, they're able to kind of take them in, give them housing, help them kind of get on their feet and be taken care of. So I heard that cause and it just kind of rung true with me. So I figured, hey, we took the names program that we released and said, hey, we'll share part of the revenue of that program in September and donate that to Olive Crest, just as a way to kind of give back to the community. The University Club also has kind of a homegrown charity called the Lamp of Learning, where they take high achieving low socioeconomic students and give them scholarships to go to college, and they help mentor them and coach them through the application process. And some of them have gotten great scholarships to go to Harvard and some really amazing places.
Wow, that's amazing.
And they're able to help with some of the finer, kind of smaller things of like, when you get to Harvard, you probably need a computer, right? So they give them, talking about screens, right?
Yeah, but here's a screen.
Yeah, but the small scholarships they give are very helpful and meaningful in that situation. And so when I first joined, I was like, hey, this is a great organization. I love learning. I donated the whole memory train workshop to them. And people who attended had to contribute monetarily to the Lamp of Learning.
Oh, that's so cool, man.
As an exchange of attendance. So they were able to raise money to help provide a scholarship to one of their students.
So if anyone wants to know about Lamp of Learning, or they want to learn more about Olive Crest, is it okay if they just contact you with your contact information below?
Reach out to me and happy to point them in the right direction. So.
Yeah. So if you're interested, well, first of all, if you're interested in what Jeffrey does as a career, then I want you to reach out to Jeffrey directly. So his contact information will be in the description box. And then if you're interested in the University Club, or if you have questions about Lamp of Learning or Olive Crest, please reach out to Jeffrey, and he'd be happy to not only make a good connection for you, but also answer questions and provide a wonderful service. So thank you for doing that. And thanks for coming back again, man. I know it was kind of a short return to have you come right back.
Great.
Which we haven't yet been able to successfully do on this show. So you're the first to have been able to return so quickly.
Wow, first in one show.
Yeah, that's right, man. This is fantastic. So I'm just so honored to have met you during this year and get to spend so much time with you. Thank you for making time available for us as well.
You're welcome. It's been a joy. So I look forward to continuing the relationship with you.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey.
You're welcome.
And thank you all for watching this amazing episode of Friends of Mortgage Heroes. If this is your first time to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. But we also have a regular weekly podcast that goes out every week talking about how you can win in mortgage and real estate, called the Mortgage Heroes Weekly Podcast. You can check that out as well. And if this is your first time meeting Jeffrey, go back a couple episodes and check out our initial interview that we did not too long ago, talking about memory training, the strength of the brain, and flexing that muscle in all the right directions. We also talked about a little more AI in that conversation as well. So definitely a very thorough conversation. And I thank you again for coming back a second time.
You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeffrey, once again for being on the show. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you with another amazing guest next week. If you enjoyed this video and you want more of our content, subscribe here. And if you'd like to watch another video right now, click here.